Thank you for having me. We're a single-cell protein. It was interesting listening to that fish-free feed started around 10 years ago because Calysta actually started 10 and a half, 11 years ago. So we're a methane fermentation company. We're gas fermentation. We use natural gas or methane, inject it into a fermenter, use a naturally occurring non-GM microbe that eats the methane, and sell that dried as a powder as our product. So if I can get the laser to work, if you look at this picture of our factory in Chongqing, China, this pipe here is actually the fermenter. It's a 2-meter wide, 2-meter diameter pipe. There's liquid and media flowing through that, and we're injecting natural gas, oxygen, adding ammonia all throughout to keep the microbes happy and healthy, and harvesting them for up to 12 weeks at a time. You can see the separation step here. It's relatively straightforward. There's centrifugation and then spray drying to a powder. So FeedKind is our single-cell protein. What is it? It's 70% crude protein. It has around 9% fat. It's got a very balanced amino acid profile, so lysine, methionine, threonine, tryptophan, all the essentials, and in ratios that fit well with what the animal needs. It's also non-GM, scalable, and doesn't have any of the contaminants that a lot of the plant proteins come with. But what I think is most interesting, and what we've spent a lot of time on over the last couple of years, is identifying those functional benefits. So yes, you've got a protein, but there are lots of proteins out there. I feel like digestibility and growth are kind of what you need just to get into the game. But to really earn your place into a feed formulation, you have to start showing some real benefits. And these are all effects that we've seen. So for gut health, whether it's in salmon or largemouth bass in China, we've shown that we can help prevent soy-induced enteritis and maintain a healthy gut. In processing, so especially if you're looking to make a floating feed, again in China where our plant is, there's a lot of extruded feeds that are not slow sinking like salmon, but floating on top of the water. And our product has both binding abilities with fat, and also it helps the pellet puff or expand to give it more air, to give you a higher % of floating pellets, which is always what your customer's looking for if you're a feed company. And lastly, the immune benefits. So we've seen this across several species now, so primarily in shrimp, but also a bit in tilapia and largemouth bass as well. So it's always a mystery a bit of what's going on inside of an animal's immune system, but we've got some pretty good ideas. So our bacteria are gram-negative. They have a lipopolysaccharide cell wall, and that signals to the animal, especially like a shrimp where they don't have an adaptive immune system, that hey, there's some bacteria here. And so what we've shown is with things like acute hepatopancreas or HPND or EMS, we can reduce the mortality rate, we can increase survival, and again, we think that's about elevating the shrimp's immune system to better fight off of infection. And that's largely supported by data showing more rapid clearing of bacteria from the hepatopancreas. And similarly, in finfish species, whether it's gill infections or a gut infection, we're seeing improvements in bacteria. Unfortunately, that does not seem to extend to viruses, at least in our product. Maybe others will. But I think it's kind of an interesting thing that this seems to be innate to our bacteria, and I imagine other bacteria and single-cell proteins as well. So this is more pictures of our plant in Changzhou. I think one of the things that we're excited about this year, and I think maybe sets us apart, is that I expect that this will be the largest, we will be the largest producer of single-cell protein or alternative protein. I do think that this plant in 2024 is going to produce more protein than any insect meal company in the world and any single-cell protein company in the world. And that's been a very exciting achievement for us. We commissioned this plant last year. We spent the last year optimizing it, improving productivity, improving production, getting the local Chinese certificates and approvals to allow us to not only start selling it domestically, but start exporting it as well. Last week, we actually announced a product launch with a pet food company in Europe that is selling pet snacks actually, so like rewards if you're training your pets with 15% feed kind in the treat. Like I said, 10 years of development, so this is a bit of the history of the company. Founded in 2012, we're actually a bunch of former biofuels and biochemicals individuals, scientists, as well as business folks, and really shifted towards protein around 2014. We decided it was a lot easier to produce a product that was the microbe itself instead of trying to engineer it to make a specific enzyme or specific additive. And so we're really making an ingredient, not an additive, which is something that I think we very much kept in mind as we were entering this challenge this year. In 2016, we finished our pilot plant in the UK, so that's Northern England and Teesside. Had a capacity of 100 tons a year, so it was run intermittently. It produced all of our samples that allowed us to get regulatory approvals around the world and also get it in customers' hands. 2020, we partnered up with Adisseo, and actually our submission this year was from the joint venture Calysseo. So that's the entity that both is producing our plant, or that operates our plant, and also submitted the product this year. And this year is really about market launches. So not only in Asia as an aquafeed ingredient, but also in Europe as a pet food ingredient. So we've worked with Adisseo. We have a joint venture throughout all of Asia for sales and distribution in aquaculture. They've been a great partner. They both provided operating expertise for the plant. They run methionine plants all over the world, so they have that kind of process and industry know-how. And they also helped us in China. I mean, anyone who's worked there knows you need a strong local partner, both to navigate the regulatory environment as well as to operate effectively, and they've really been critical to that. And so the submission this year, so David Ball and I actually put it together. When I initially heard about the challenge, I thought, well, we're an ingredient and krill meal is kind of an additive, and we might beat everybody else, but I kind of doubt we're going to beat krill meal. So we put our heads together and thought, well, what can we add to feed kind to try and make up some of those gaps? And David was working at his Singapore R&D center, where they've done experiments with feed kind before. And so we looked at what their product portfolio contained that we thought would help fill that gap. So while we have phospholipids, they tend to be bound up into the cell wall. So we wanted to make sure that there were plenty of phospholipids available to the animal. Similarly, there's a bile salt additive that Adisseo makes that we thought would help with fat digestion and kind of make sure that we don't see any reductions in growth or performance. So we're hopeful and eager to see what the results are. But I think that's it for me. So thank you for your time. Very excited to be participating this year. I think we've been to, Calysta has participated in all of the F3 events, but this is the first one where we've actually been in the contest. So that's very exciting for us and looking forward to it.